Well, if it wasn't official before, it is now. The internet's favorite daddy, as he's called, Pedro Pascal, is going to be a very, very busy man for the next couple of years. This is Are We Not Entertained? Part of the Closing Tag Network. So what do I mean by that? Pedro Pascal. Well, first of all, if you don't know that he's the internet's favorite daddy, Google it. YouTube, Google, whatever you want to use it. Yeah. And then just be prepared for just an insane amount of estrogen being squirted in your face. Sorry to get graphic on here, but yeah. Anyway, so as you know, Pedro Pascal is the man behind two of the more iconic characters in entertainment lore in the last 5 years. Not only is he Joel Miller in The Last of Us, excellent show, by the way, just excellent. I cannot suggest that show enough to anybody. But he's also Din Djarin, who is in the show The Mandalorian. Now, the reason why he's the internet's favorite daddy is he plays a reluctant father figure in both of those roles. For The Last of Us, he plays the reluctant father figure for Ellie, played by Bella Ramsey. In The Mandalorian, he plays the reluctant dad figure turned actual dad figure for Grogu, or as my daughter continues to call him, Baby Yoda. So, even though it's looking more and more like the Mandalorian TV show is pretty much done, there was some really cool news from Disney. And that is that Kevin Feige, no, not Kevin Feige, sorry, wrong property. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are teaming up to release a full feature-length film for Star Wars based on The Mandalorian. So not only is The Mandalorian not done anyway, but it will now be only the second film in the history of Star Wars that will not feature a Skywalker, or at least have Skywalker implications. So there's that. On top of that, The Last of Us Season 2 has begun filming. So, that's something to look forward to. Yay! And now this bit of news. The Last of Us and Mandalorian star Pedro Pascal has reportedly dropped out of Weapons, an upcoming horror film from the director of Barbarian. This is coming from comicbook.com. According to veteran entertainment journalist Jeff Snyder, the move comes as Fantastic Four's production has been pushed back into the back half of 2024, creating a scheduling conflict. So, let's connect the dots, shall we? He was set to play in this horror movie called Weapons. But the MCU then announced, because, strikes and bullshit happened, that they have to push all their production back into the back half of 2024, including the Fantastic Four movie. There's been rumors, and I guess this is as sure a sign that those rumors are true, that the MCU and Kevin Feige are pegging Pedro Pascal to play the role of Reed Richards. Now, Reed Richards, if you don't know, is the leader of the Fantastic Four. Mr. Fantastic himself. Brilliant scientist. His arms stretch like crazy. And he's not the first one to play Reed Richards, by the way. If you recall, there were 2 Fantastic Four movies that were released in the 2000s, the early 2000s, and the guy that played the man himself, Reed Richards, I believe, I don't remember his name. I know that was the Jessica Alba movie. Jessica Alba was Sue Storm. And Chris Evans was the Human Torch. Interesting enough that Chris Evans is still the only guy in the MCU to have played 2 roles. Yeah. How's that for trivia for you? And then, of course, there was that abomination of a Fantastic Four movie. It was like 7 or 8 years ago. The less said about that, the better. I think that was like a year or 2 before Disney decided to buy Fox. And then you also had the Reed Richards appearance in the Doctor Strange movie, Multiverse of Madness, that was played by none other than Jim Halpert himself, John Krasinski. Of course, if you remember, that was the movie in which we saw a return to the role of Charles Xavier by Patrick Stewart. So as I continue reading this, while Marvel has yet to officially confirm it, entertainment industry trades have been reporting for weeks that Pascal will play the role of Reed Richards in the movie. Pascal isn't the first actor to play the character in live action, but will serve as the primary version of Reed in the MCU. Details about the Weapons movie are slim. That's how the filmmaker wants it. But when Pascal was cast, was characterized as, quote, a multi- and interrelated story horror epic that tonally is in the vein of Magnolia, a 1999 actor cram showcase from filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson. The first part of that sounds a lot like Word Soup, doesn't it? Just a little bit. The second season of The Last of Us is set to shoot beginning next month. Okay, so it hasn't officially started filming yet, but it will soon. Next month, apparently. When Fantastic Four was scheduled for a late spring shoot, Snyder reports Pascal had room in his schedule for Weapons. That is a very... Taken out of context, that's a very insane statement right there. He has room in his schedule for Weapons. Clip that. With Marvel pushing the movie to later in the year, things apparently fell apart as my ringtone goes off. The MCU had recently expanded out into the multiverse, introducing variants of a number of their characters, including Reed Richards, played by John Krasinski in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. Not long after that film's release, Krasinski revealed that he had not been contacted by Marvel to return as the character, suggesting that his turn as Reed Richards was more like simple fan service. Which, all things considered, he didn't do that bad a job, I think. But it goes on to say Krasinski and his wife, Emily Blunt, had been fan cast to play Reed Richards and Sue Storm for years. I did not know that. You learn something new every day after all. So, what are my thoughts on Internet Daddy playing Reed Richards? I absolutely love the idea of Pedro Pascal playing anything in the MCU. I mean, basically give that guy a blank check and let him basically dictate what he wants to do. I mean, he's earned it. He has become one of the hottest actors in Hollywood practically overnight. I think him and Giancarlo Esposito have earned pretty much their share of the honeypot, I guess you could say. But Reed Richards? Reed Richards. Young, handsome scientist. I mean, don't get me wrong. If anybody can pull off handsome scientist and scientific genius, it would be Pedro Pascal. But they would have to do some serious makeup or CGI or some bullshit to make that guy look any younger than he did in The Mandalorian. I'm sorry. This is coming from someone who's north of 40. I'm sorry, Pedro. You just don't look young enough, in my opinion. But hey, it's Hollywood. It's Disney. It's Marvel. So the fact that they have Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards tells me that they are taking this reboot of the Fantastic Four very seriously, and that to me is music to my ears. Because as much as I liked the first two Fantastic Four movies, the ones that had Chris Evans as the Human Torch, there were parts of them that were just dreadful to watch. And like I said, the less said about that abomination from 7 or 8 years ago, the better. So I applaud Disney for trying. For at least trying. For trying to do something new. For trying to, mix things up a little bit. Here's what I would like to see. I know she hasn't been getting a lot of play as of late, and that's part of the reason why I'm suggesting this. Here's my thought on The Thing, and I'm going to sum it up in 2 words. Gwendolyn Christie. Gwendolyn Christie. If you don't know who that is, if you watched Game of Thrones, she was the big tall girl, Brienne of Tarth. That one. In the Star Wars sequel trilogy, she was the tall stormtrooper-looking woman. Or more recently, in the Wednesday series on Netflix, She was the principal. I think she could pull off the thing. And she has the acting chops to pull it off. She's obviously got the height. Otherwise, what are you going to do? You're going to bring in Shaq? You're going to bring in what? The guy that plays... Okay, the guy that plays Reacher would probably play a really good thing. Let's be honest. Again, if you haven't seen Reacher, go watch it. Yeah. So, since I'm fantasy casting, I would like to see as Sue Storm, since Pedro Pascal's pretty much got Reed Richards locked and loaded. No pun intended for the weapons. I would say a good decision, a good actress to play Sue Storm. Honestly, I would continue the idea of going with Emily Blunt. I mean, why not? She's obviously got the acting chops. And she's not that hard on the eyes. Just saying. And either the guy that plays Reacher or Gwendolyn Christie as the Thing. I would have... who's another really good actor? Some of you may not know this man's name. His name is Rami Malek. He played Elliot Alderson in Mr. Robot. He also was the main villain in the last James Bond movie. And he was also Freddie Mercury in the biopic Bohemian Rhapsody. I think if anybody can pull off a Human Torch, it'd be him. And he'd probably knock it out of the damn park. And since I brought up Giancarlo Esposito earlier, if you're looking for a Doctor Doom, look no further than Gustavo Fring himself. I mean, he's already an excellent villain in 3 properties. What's one more? You know? And there's your big baddie for the next phase of Marvel. Him and Kingpin. Book it. But, yeah, some exciting shit's going down. Now, I don't have enough time to really get into wrestling and all that fun stuff, so I'll probably save that for a later episode. But I do have some thoughts on shit that's going on with, TNA, with WWE, with AEW, with New Japan, with All the Japan, and everything else that's going on. But I'll save that for another time. So I'll just wrap this up now and let you guys know that if you want to leave a review on Spotify, you can. If you are watching this on Facebook, like, share, and comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. That way you are notified anytime a new episode is dropped. Like the one that I dropped just a little while ago about Bill Belichick. And the one that I dropped yesterday about Pete Carroll. Sorry. Burpees. YouTube, right. Okay. Thank you guys for watching, for downloading, for listening, for donating, for doing everything you can to support this podcast. Your efforts do not go unnoticed. So thank you. And like I said, I will probably have that wrestling take another time. I don't know when yet. I'm busy. Yeah. But anyway, uh, before I get too loopy, I will simply say thank you and remember to include your closing tags. Thank you.